Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Prep Report. Rich Estrella, along with Bob Gibson and Dan DeForest with us tonight. And we're down to about the last 3 weeks of the prep sports season. Man, there's a lot of sports going on right now. And Bob, nobody's used to this, man. You talk to some of the scribes out there. They don't have enough people to go out. They go out to one school, they cover 6 events.
Right.
It's crazy.
We were just on the phone earlier this afternoon talking about this, right? Saying, hey, look, this time of year we'd be shutting it down pretty much.
Yep.
Maybe a little baseball, track and field to wrap it up, but we are in the thick of it during this season, and why not? I think that's part of what's going to make it so much fun here these next couple of weeks.
Now, if you notice, Randy Rosenblum hasn't been with us the last couple of weeks. Randy's out doing CIF basketball right now. And I talked to Randy earlier in the week, and he gave me a lot of stuff, Bob, we could talk about today. But, man, there's so much going on. And, of course, basketball is king right now. It usually is this time of year. Well, not this time. Usually it's softball, baseball, man. Track. Actually, nobody's king. What's king is I graduated. I'm out of here. That's what's king, Bob. But essentially right now we're in the middle of the these what is it? The softball playoffs start today, Bob. Baseball playoffs are going first round.
Are going, right.
Basketball, everybody's in the semifinals this week, pretty much. For the CIF, I don't think the state's having playoffs this year, Bob. I think they're shut down for the year.
Right.
But so this is it. This is everything right now in terms of basketball, softball, all this. There are no state playoffs. There will be nothing going on. So, but you know what? A CIF championship, Bob's pretty good.
No, it's going to be, no matter what, they're going to count it as a CIF title, right? You're going to be able to say, hey, we were CIF champions. No matter what happened this year. And I think that's what's so much fun, right, is that these kids, and I know we beat it to death the past couple of weeks, but just the fact these kids got this chance to do this, it just means everything. And for us to be able to cover it, right, this is what we do too. So this is our lifeline, just like the playing and the coaching is it for the kids and the coaches. We're here talking about it, and we get all the info for you. So stay right here. We're gonna run down all these brackets for you and let you know what's going on.
But typically, Bob, we go to a school or we go to a game with a purpose. All right, we have to. There's a feature we want to do. There's something good going on or crazy going on, or maybe we're just looking for it. But again, to go on a campus and when you walk on there, hey, are you here to cover this? You here to cover softball? You here to cover baseball?
Right.
And of course the fields are packed. You just have to find where your people are, man.
The parking's been an adventure too, right?
Isn't
so
it?
many things going on. Where's all the parking? Usually you pull into a school, plenty of parking. Now, this year's been a little bit different, man. It's starting to look like that 5 freeway right about now.
Yeah, I'll say. Hey, real quick before we move on, Bob, Anthony White, Coach White from Winter Park High, has been on this show many times, is going to Santa Ana City College.
I did see that. Good for Coach.
Yep, saw it a couple weeks ago and forgot to mention it last week. But yeah, good for Anthony White moving on. Santa Ana City. If he can bring that magic he brought with him to Winter Park High, they'll do fine. There's going to be a new big dog in town, Bob.
Well, you never would have guessed anybody could turn around Buena Park, right? The Coyotes had not been a relevant football program for so many years. He went in there and he did just that, right? I mean, he made them a top contender.
Bob,
a top
they
10
were
Orange
5
County
and
team.
50 over that 10-year period prior to Anthony White showing up.
I know. So look what he can do for a football program, right? So you're right. If he can go into Santa Ana College and do that, I have no doubt that he will be able to do that because he's kind of got that way about him, right? He's kind of really infectious with his energy and everything. So he'll get in there, and I think he'll get that going over at Santa Ana College too. I think that's a good hire by them.
Bob, they had play 10 games a year because they'd never make the playoffs at Winter Park, and they had 11 homecoming games.
Yeah.
Because even the visiting team that showed up for Winter Park's homecoming held their homecoming at the same time.
Right.
Because it was a guaranteed win. Right. It was a big win. Everybody felt good about themselves, man.
Yeah,
but he sure did turn it around quickly.
They did absolutely, right. They got top kids there. I mean, he sent kids to the NFL out of that Buena Park program. So, I mean, hats off to what he accomplished there. Stepped down to spend a little more time with his family, understandable. But I guess his kids are getting a little older now. He's got a chance to jump back in and do some coaching again. I know he's been itching to do that, so good for him.
Yep, and going in a big way. All right, let's take a look now at the open division of the boys basketball playoffs. CIF Southern section, and this is going to be it, man. No state champ this year. Right now, what's good is Sierra Canyon still has the respect of the country. There's a lot of publications saying Sierra Canyon, although all the other schools played at the normal time, California couldn't.
Right.
Sierra Canyon is probably still the best team in the country, Bob.
Yeah, I think everybody wanted to find a reason not to like Sierra Canyon. Obviously, they've graduated some big talent. Bronny James sitting out the season with an injury. And so a lot of people said, well, what's left at Sierra Canyon? Well, a lot was left at Sierra Canyon, right? They still have a lot of great players, and that played out this year once again. But don't count on Etowanda, who's always a top program. Rebay has become that school that's just really kind of jumped into the fray. I don't want to say out of nowhere, but who heard of Rebay Academy a few years ago, right? Now they're firmly on the radar here. And when you look at the bottom of that bracket, right? Damien was the school. A lot of buzz, right? Coming out of San Gabriel Valley. A lot of buzz about what Damien was doing early in the season. They ran off like 20-0 to start the season.
Yep.
And so everyone said, is it for real? Yeah, it's for real, right? Damien's a good school because they beat Mater Dei. People called that an upset. I didn't. I didn't think that was an upset at all.
Bob, Damien's been good for a while now.
I know.
They're not just no Johnny-come-lately onto the scene. They've been on the precipice of greatness in high school basketball in Southern California for a long time, and they're pushing all these big giants, Bob.
No, you're right. They've been there for quite a few years. But you look at that number 6 seed, and you go, are they really that good? No, they'll throw the seeds out the window, right? That doesn't matter at all because they gave it to Mater Dei pretty good in that opening round win. And then they come back and they take a bad loss to Centennial. No shame there. That Centennial team, which I'm picking to win the whole thing here when we get down to it. But hats off to Damien because I think they've had a great year. Harvard Westlake still very much in this mix as well. That's going to be tough for them because I still think you look at 6-7 and that Damien Harvard Westlake. I think there's a big difference there between those two teams. I think Damien the better of those two teams. As well in that bottom Pool B in that bracket.
And the games Centennial lost to Harvard Westlake, Bob. One of their top players was out. He was was already out at I don't know. He had somewhere else to go. Maybe he might have been on a trip for a scholarship. Who knows? But he was away. And had he played, Bob, he's worth more than 5 points to that team.
Well, we've heard all these stories about players, whether they're a softball/basketball player, baseball/basketball, right?
Right.
So a lot of players are trying to play two sports here. We're going to see highlights from the Crean Lutheran Bishop Alemany girls game in just a couple of minutes. We'll talk about that. But I know one of their top players on Crean is also a top softball player in the area. And so I didn't confirm it, but I think she might have played because I saw some of her teammates still in their softball uniforms. She may have played a softball game in the afternoon and a basketball game in the evening. Maya Bland is her name. So I don't know. Some of these kids are really stretching themselves thin, but hopefully they're not having to choose between two sports if they are. Hey, it's just been that kind of a year.
There's precedent set around the country for the stuff like that, Bob. Bo Jackson, I know Bo Jackson on a whole different level, but it doesn't matter. He was in high school. I mean, he forced a change at his high school where they only let you play one sport during the season. Southern California with the Southern and City section, I believe, are both the same way. You can play, when you're playing one sport, if you're playing girls basketball, that's it. You can't play in any other. You can't play on travel teams. You can't play during that season. Maybe you want to wrestle too and show up to the wrestling meets. Maybe you're the best wrestler on the team, so you want to play basketball and wrestle. Well, they wouldn't let you do that. Well, Bo Jackson changed all that where you got to play baseball. He'd go play a baseball game in the early afternoon at 3 o'clock. He'd take care of his business, only 6 innings, and then he would head to wherever the track team was at and make the 100 meters, Bob, and anchor the 440 relay team right after playing baseball.
Yeah.
And he would win. He'd beat everybody. So what's the problem letting kids play multiple sports? I never saw what the value in it was, why they would make such a rule against players.
This is the time you let them do that, right? Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as getting tired when you're 16, 17 years old.
Not
it just doesn't exist. This is the time in your life where you can pull off those kind of superhuman feats, right? Hey, I'm going to go play a baseball game, play 7 innings, right? And I'm going to go anchor the 4x400 relay, right? You and I couldn't do that anymore, but kids at that age, of course you can do that, right? So you're right. Hey, anybody who wants to play anything, anytime, anywhere, let them do it, right? Let them have at it. Let them decide if they can do it or not, because I guarantee you, the most likely they probably can.
Well, it's the only time in your career playing sports that you can actually do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're your own agent. Your own boss. So I just never understood why they wouldn't let them play multiple. I get you're going to have some jealousies within the the coaching staffs, because they are very provincial with their players, Bob. Basketball coaches don't want them wrestling and vice versa. So I get it. You don't want your players to get hurt. You want to focus on one thing. But again, some of these guys, man, they can play 3 sports in a semester and be fine. And but the rule's not going to change, Bob. They did loosen it a little bit this year because of COVID, Bob. But still, I just don't see why they can't do it. They should be able to do it.
But I bet you if a coach said, you know what, I'm going to get 2/3 of a season out of a really great baseball player, one of my top kids, and I got to sacrifice him for a third to go do track or whatever it is, I would take that, right? I mean, most coaches would take that trade-off and say, you know what, I'm okay with that. So, you know, right, I think you let the players and obviously the parents involved and the coaches make that decision. You know, hey, we'll let them kind of break it up as they want to do it.
All right, before we get to the girls' bracket, hey, is Dan there?
I'm here.
Yeah,
All right, let's go back. Let's go back to the men's bracket real quick there, Larry, and let's have a look real quick. Dan, what do you think about the men's open division right now? To me, this is actually, and no pun intended, this is the most open the open division has been in quite some time, in my opinion.
I agree.
Right, you have some really strong teams in there, and I agree with you that Centennial looks like it's going to be really tough. You have the Sierra Canyon men are the top teams going through there. Right. But yeah, you know, as far as like what you were talking about earlier about the coaches, you know, it's really tough to play two sports. The basketball coach will tell you, hey, we need you here, you got to get nicked up, and football, we want you 100%. And the football coach is convincing you of the same thing, you know. So when I played two sports in high school, they were both trying to convince me, hey, stay with us, you're going to get more playing time, you got to, you know, focus in on our sport. It's really tough on the kids to choose between one and the other, you know, because you love both sports. You've been playing them all your life, you know, through junior high, high school, and you just, you know, it's hard to choose. So it's really hard to let them go halfway through the season. I think, you know, they try to focus them in playing one or the other.
Well, you should be dialed in on your team, whatever sport. And I don't blame coaches for trying to steer athletes away from other sports, but it's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I'll tell you what, and I've said it before on this show, and I'll say it again. I've been in offices, been in Frank Mazzotta's office. You got Don Osborne in there. I mean, you got all these big-time coaches coming from these big programs nationwide, and the first thing they invariably ask is, what other sports do they play? What other sports do they play? And that's even at the JC level. At the high school level, it's the same thing. They want to know what type of athlete they're getting. Are they getting a natural athlete that excels at everything, or are they just getting a guy that's just been playing travel ball, baseball or basketball all his life, and that's all he's done? Because burnout is involved in that. You know this. Things change with high school kids as they get older. Their interests change. If you're, you know, some of the boys, you discover girls, and that's where your time goes. You're hanging out. You're hanging out and doing different things. That's what it's all about. You're growing up. Some of these coaches would rather just have you focus solely on the sport and nothing else exists. So I understand that aspect of it. They got to win. But I don't think so much at most high schools your job is predicated so much on your one-loss record. As long as you're competitive and none of the parents are complaining, I think you can keep your job. Except at Mater Dei and Etiwanda,
right, I was going to say
Sierra Canyon. There's a handful of schools, maybe two handfuls of schools where your job is predicated on that, but for the most part, it's not.
Well, I think in football and baseball, it's easy to play the two sports, are easier because of the seasons. But when you go right into football, you play football, you go right into basketball. It's hard to make adjustments, get ready, get your shot down. I mean, like, you're just jumping right into the fray. But you're right, some of these natural athletes can do it, but it's much better if, you know, the football, baseball, or track, you know, track's a sport, but it's, you know, basically running. You know, you can pull a hammy or something, but it's not, you're not getting nicked up or, you know, stress on.
You could pull a hammy. I get you might pull a hammy or something like that, but you know what? You can't think like that. Just let them go play. You want to put out the best you can out there.
That's it.
You know, and again, sometimes it doesn't happen, but just looking at the boys bracket. So, Bob, you think it's going to be Centennial?
I do. I think Centennial and Sierra Canyon. I like Centennial all the way through. I do.
All right. It may be an upset. We'll see what happens. I like that. That's a bold prediction there, Bob. I like it. I'm going to go with it just because I like the upset. Because Corona Centennial can easily be number one. They probably would be number one if they didn't in this pool brackets.
Right.
But again, you're missing one of your best players on something he had planned a while back, and it had something to do with the academics, so it's cool. But he's back in time, and it looks like they will probably they're probably beating Mater Dei right now as we speak, Bob.
I would think so, right? Mater Dei is obviously shorthanded on their own end, so that's a matchup that a month ago might have looked a little closer than I think it does today.
So it'll be great. It'd be great. And then we'll get Rosenblum to call the games. How about that? All right, let's take a look at the girls' bracket. Every bit as competitive as the boys. All these teams want to win. But look at the common denominators, Bob. You got Corona Centennial, number one. Their girls' team's in there. Mater Dei's team's in there. Etiwanda's in there. Harvard Westlake's in there.
Right.
We're only missing Sierra Canyon.
That's it, right?
And Bosco doesn't have a girls' team.
Right.
All boys school.
That's an all boys, right? That's the only reason they wouldn't have one. Otherwise, they'd probably be in here as well. You're right. So much overlap between and we've seen the Windward boys in the past have a great team. The Windward girls are always one of the top teams in the area. Here's another one where easily you could have Mater Dei as the number one seed here, and in a way, I'm kind of surprised they're not. But obviously, again, Centennial's had another great year, right? And it just goes to show you usually see the private schools having these double. But that is a public school, of course, Centennial.
Bob, let's talk
you got
about
the girls and the boys as
Excuse me.
one of the top two seeds at each one of these divisions. So, they just do such a great job, both those programs at Centennial.
Bob, let's look at that Centennial bracket up there. I mean, what a powerful team. They're averaging about 100 points a game. They scored 100 against West Torrance, and then Windward they scored 97. And again, no slouches with these ladies. I mean, I'm telling you, Windward's a powerhouse.
Look, if you're going to put up 100 points and then 97 points, you're going to beat Windward by 20? Come on. That's ridiculous, right? I mean, that's just that kind of thing doesn't happen. Windward doesn't see that kind of score. They end up on the wrong side of the scoreboard like that very often. So that tells you how good that Centennial team is. I can't wait if we get that matchup, which I think is going to happen, Centennial and Mater Dei in the finals. I think that's going to be a really good because, we know Kevin Kieran over at Mater Dei really knows how to work up his team, right? And he's got the horses over there again to make a run at it. I think that would just be such a great matchup, and I wouldn't put it past Mater Dei to pull off the upset there.
You wouldn't?
I would not.
I don't think there's an upset to be had there. I think they dominate that lower bracket, Bob.
You're right. No, for sure, right? But I think people would consider that just because of the numbers. So, look at Centennial. Look what they're doing to people, right?
True.
Just putting up huge numbers on
Oh,
people.
no, I'm talking just the lower bracket myself. I think Centennial will probably beat them,
No, 100%.
How are you going to stop them?
No, you're right. But I think especially on the lower end there, I think Mater Dei by far
Here's what
the
happens.
best team on the lower side of that bracket.
Here's what happens when you have a team like Corona Centennial. You know they're high power. They're going to get their points. But you got to slow them down. You got to keep them away from the Centennial mark. You cannot let them get 100 points. So what do you do?
Well,
you got to slow them down, Bob. First of all, you got to play man press. You got to slow it down. You got to double the ball once it gets to the front court, and then you got to pray that you don't lose all your energy in that first half, so you're burned out and you don't score your allotment of about 61 to 65 points. On your teams, Bob. So that's the difference right there that I see between Corona and Mater Dei.
Look what's Larry. Can you put that bracket up again, the girls? Look at the scores. Look at the scores of the opposition there against Centennial. So, right, they put up 100, but they gave up 68, right? That's the number. Look at 97, 70. What's a lot of points
Bob,
in a girls' basketball game?
Time out. You don't think the second
That's
teamers
a lot of
and
points.
the youngsters are coming in when they're already up by 40?
Could be, but that's still...
No, that's what's happening, Bob.
Anything in the 70s or 80s, and much less 100 points, I think in the 70s, 80s in a girls' basketball game is a lot
Bob,
of points.
they got these guys down by... I guarantee you, by the time Centennial takes out their frontline team, they're up by like 30. They're up by like 30 points. They bring in Team B, Team C, and they just play.
My point being that the defense maybe is a little suspect. If they're scoring those points, but they're giving up a whole ton of points as well on the other end, if you're going to let Mater Dei stay in a game with you and score points in that kind of a way and get into the 70s with you like that, if Mater Dei can play a little bit of defense and slow down that Centennial team, now you're talking about maybe
that won't happen, Bob.
A couple of point difference in that game if it stays close. So you got to play Centennial not playing a ton of defense is what I'm saying by the looks of these scores here.
I think they're playing a ton of defense, Bob. It's like I said, once you get late in the game and you're up by 30 points, I'm a former basketball coach. I take out all my frontliners. I got to save them for the next game. We got another game to play.
Right.
As soon as I can, I take out my starting five, I put in my next group and get them tested. I don't care if I'm winning by 30 and I give up and I only win by 10. The fact is we're going to win. And you know what? My second line team's going to need the work, Bob. So it works out great for them.
So you're willing to give up, 20, 25
You're not
points
giving up
in that
because
fourth quarter
here's this thing, Bob. If I'm coaching this team and I know I can put my foot on the gas whenever I want, The minute,
no doubt.
The minute we give up, say, 15 points in a row, or we gave up a 30-point lead, now we're up by 15, then I call a timeout, bring my starters back in, we ramp up that lead again.
Yeah.
They'd love to do it. But the thing is, when you have class, then you let your other players play. You start bringing them in and letting them work, because there's no sense in running it up to 200 points.
No, and you're right. It's important to get those other kids in, right? And you want to get some rest for your top kids. It's been a long season.
Dan's
it's been a crazy
cutthroat.
year. Right.
DeForest has a whole different thing. Dan
Right.
was leave them in and get to
DeForest,
200.
he'll
Right?
work-
Well, you got to look at those teams are so deep, like we were talking earlier, modern
Yep.
days.
Yeah,
12
they are.
deep. And that Corona Centennial, I guarantee you, 12 deep. Anybody that's on that varsity is a top player. You know, the fourth quarter, they start, if it's too much of a blowout, they start running clocks. You know, that's a good point. They gave up a lot of points there.
They should.
That was really surprising. But I think I would do that, like what you guys were saying, like slow it down, plans, try to, you know, balance it out a little bit, slow down the game. Otherwise, it gets away from you. High scoring game like that.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can slow it down.
I'll play full court defense. I'll play man press starting in the back court, man. That's the only way you can do it. You gotta start in the back court, double the ball. Once they pass it, get past you. Keep doubling the ball and keep your one big guy back in the paint. That's it. Your one big girl back in the paint, and deal with whatever comes if they can get it up there. In the meantime, trap and press. Trap and press. Take them out of their comfort zone, man. I guarantee you nobody traps and presses modern day. Nobody.
No.
Same thing with Centennial. I guarantee you nobody traps and presses them. But guess what? When they meet each other in the finals, they will trap and press each other.
Well, I'll tell you who did do that, and the highlights you're watching on your screen now are the Crean Lutheran. A couple nights ago, Crean Lutheran and
Almanian
played Bishop Alemany, right? The number one seed in that division, Alemany, and it was a close game. Got down to 7 or 6 after Alemany had taken a 15-point lead a couple of times in the first and second half. Give Crean a lot of credit to get back in this game, and they're a very young team. They'll be right back in it. But that Alemany team, boy, a physical brand of defense. Man, they pushed Crean around a little bit on their home court out there. They got away with it. The referees, they swallowed the whistle for the night, put those in the back pocket. No whistles were getting blown. They let the girls get out there and get after each other, which I think is a good way to let playoff basketball happen.
Yeah, at this point in the playoffs, yeah, Bob.
Absolutely,
You
let them play,
baby.
right? It got to the point where it was getting a little chippy out there. Dan will tell you, right?
It was getting busy out there. Yeah, they were knocking each other around pretty good. But I got to say that the refs did let them play on both sides. So it got rough. They didn't foul anybody out, but it was really tough. They were pressing them up and down the court.
Those
was banging them a little bit, and they had to stay physical. So they hung in there, and it was a good learning experience for Crean.
That's a big.
Wow, that team is tough. That team was tough.
Yeah,
that's a big learning curve for Crean. Play that game and to play modern day early in the year. Like I told you, Dan, playing modern day early in the year for Crean was big because that team's physical as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe not quite as physical as Almany was. Maybe they are. Maybe they're equal, but you've seen it already. So you know what's coming when you play teams like Almany. And they are going to be very physical. Almany does all their sports well. I don't care what it is. They're competitive at every single level of every sport they play.
Yeah, that's a great school. Mission Hills. It's really, you're right. They're good at everything, right? They're
Absolutely.
They were 20 deep also. They were 20 players deep, and they were bringing players in, and they were subbing hard, and it gave us a little bit of
that's a big advantage because you don't have any tired feet. You can keep the tempo up. You can keep banging. Even if you get a couple players, you won't get anybody in foul trouble that way. You just keep rotating them in and out, especially if you have that ability, if you have that depth on your bench. I would use it. Heck yeah.
Kareem only was about 6 deep, 70. And so they were getting a little bit tired out there, and they were that physicality kind of took a little bit out of them at the end of the game there.
Well, it's getting towards the end of the season too. We're in the playoffs. They played a few more games already than most, so here you go. Yeah. All right, hey guys, I hate to switch gears, but we're running out of time. We want to touch upon this story, Bob.
Yeah,
your girl,
Jillian Albayati, right? She's a junior pitcher on the baseball team, not softball, the baseball team at Anaheim High School, and she was the winning pitcher, 4-0 victory over Westminster. just yesterday. So a big win for the Colonists of Anaheim.
Westminster Abbey.
Westminster High School. You might remember Ryan Klesko, the old Atlanta Brave, went to Westminster. So that's their claim to fame as far as putting a professional out of there. That's always a good program.
She'd probably strike him out right now, I bet you.
Well, she's striking everybody out, right? She's got 27 strikeouts and 32 innings on the season. 4-0. Her ERA, 0.66.
Nice.
This girl's the real deal.
Hey, wait a minute.
She's a ball player, not a girl ball player.
Yeah.
She's just a ball player, right? She can play the sport. Forget if you're male or female, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can play baseball. You can play. She's proven she belongs out there.
And Bob, she hits 433,
right?
man.
Yeah. She's swinging the bat too.
Hitter.
And she reminds me, there's this picture of Isla Borders, right? Don't forget, Isla Borders was the first. She came from Southern California here, Whittier Christian High School. She ended up pitching at Southern California College, which is now called Vanguard University over in Orange County in Costa Mesa. She was the first female to ever pitch in a collegiate baseball game. She was actually the winning pitcher that day. I covered that game that day back in 1993. Wow, it's a long time ago.
I remember that.
That was a great story. But that just shows you how long it's been that women are trying to make inroads in the sport of baseball. I know every time you hear about a girl that's trying to cross over, play baseball instead of softball, I know that always piques the interest, and it brings Isla's name back into it as well, and it's a lot of fun. If you go on Twitter, you can actually find there's quite a few females out there playing baseball, right? Hey, we're baseball players, right? They want to play baseball, and they're good at it. So hats off to Jillian Albayati. One more year, too. She has a senior season next year left to play. Can't wait to see what she does.
She's going to get the Mike Trout moniker. She's good at baseball, right?
She's good. Yeah, right. Mike Trout's good at baseball. So is Jillian Albayati.
I can't believe we got that memo at the radio station that day that announced that Mike Trout was good at baseball.
Hey, you know what? The Angels had to tell us Mike Trout was good at baseball.
Man, we had a good argument that day, and we were going, and then we got interrupted by that.
Right.
Too much.
Breaking
All right,
news.
let's go to the LA City section, take a look. I think we had Scholar Athletes this week mentioned for the year. Scholar Athletes of the Year, Bob Boys Fall. There you go. Dylan Cordick, San Pedro High School. Let's see, Boys Winter, Diego Manzano, Huntington Park High School. Boys Spring, David Wong from Granada Hills Charter School. And let's go in the girls. The Fall Scholar Athlete of the Year, Ananka Jose, Eagle Rock High School. Girls Winter, Janice Corona, Linda Marquez High School. And the girls Spring, Martha Avila, Harbor Teacher Prep Academy. Congratulations to all the Scholar Athletes for 2021. We know it was trying, man. You guys hung in there, and you are well deserving of this honor. Congratulations.
For sure. Having to go to school on an iPad for most of the year, if not the whole year. Not a fun time, but these kids made it work, and they
Can
excelled.
you imagine, Bob, us going to school, having to get on stuff like this,
Right.
Zoom classes, and I mean,
I was just worried about riding my bike to school, right? Locking it up in the cage there and then getting to class on time. I mean, having to do it over an iPad, come on.
I would be the dude laying in my bed like this, with the camera right here going, yeah, I'm here. Hello, yeah, Rich, yep, here
he is. Right?
And then I'd be the dude snoring. I'd have to mute my thing for sure, man. 'Cause I'd be out like a light,
Mr. Australia, wake up.
I mean, have you seen all the stuff that's going out there on Zoom right now in these meetings,
I
man?
know,
People forgetting where they're at and what they're doing.
People forget to put their clothes on sometimes for these Zoom calls, right? Yeah,
Really?
I've seen a few of those. Yeah,
That's heavy, man.
Yeah, a little.
That's out there. That's
don't
really out
do
there.
that. Please get dressed before you do a professional Zoom call. It's good advice.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you guys one thing. Looking forward to basketball. This will be the last week of it, and then baseball. The playoffs are already starting, so we'll have to delve into that.
Yeah,
and
we're really
into
going to hit baseball
softball
hard next week. Yeah,
and into softball, and talk to a few coaches, see what's going on at the end. The seasons don't normally extend this long, but they're extending this long due to the COVID virus and so forth and so on. So I'm looking forward to the fall, guys, because come this fall, I mean, everything should be back to normal.
Back to normal.
That's what I'm hearing.
Back to normal.
Word on the
right?
street.
That's what they're telling us. Hey, that means football's right around the corner, right?
Yep.
Football's right around the
August. We got some big announcements on that, and I think the next couple of weeks, Bob, we're going to take the opportunity and indulge ourselves in what's up and coming for this fall football season and basketball season and beyond. It's going to be crazy. You're not going to want to miss it, especially if you're an athlete at a local high school. Anyways, that's about it, fellas.
All right.
Dan, thanks for joining us today.
You bet.
All right, Bob, as usual, thank you. Good job.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back next week. On behalf of Dan DeForest, Bob Gibson, I'm Rich Estrella saying so long from your friends here at the SoCal Prep Report.